Have you ever looked into a mirror and felt like something was looking back at you? Not your own reflection, but something else. Something darker? Tonight, I'll share a story that will make you think twice before you look into a mirror alone. This is the true story of a shadow that haunted a family for generations.
My name is Daniel. I grew up in a small town in Vermont, USA. My family owned an old Victorian house that had been passed down for generations. When my grandmother passed away, she left the house to my parents, and we moved in when I was 12. The house was beautiful, but strange. It had creaky wooden floors, tall windows, and a grand staircase. But the thing that stood out the most was a huge, antique mirror in the hallway. It was at least 7 feet tall, with a golden frame covered in strange carvings. My grandmother always kept it covered with a black cloth, and she warned us never to remove it. But after she died, my parents uncovered the mirror. They said it was a family heirloom and too beautiful to hide. From the first day, I felt uneasy around it. Sometimes, I thought I saw movement in the glass, even when no one was near. The first night in the house, I had trouble sleeping. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I thought it was my mom or dad, but when I peeked out, the hallway was empty. The only thing I saw was the mirror, reflecting the darkness. I went back to bed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. That night I had a nightmare. In my dream, I was standing in front of the mirror, and my reflection started to move on its own. It smiled at me, but it wasn't my smile. It was twisted, evil. I woke up sweating, my heart racing. I tried to tell myself it was just a dream, but deep down, I knew something was wrong with that mirror.
Over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. Sometimes I would hear whispers coming from the hallway, especially at night. Objects would move on their own, books falling off shelves, doors closing by themselves. One evening, my little sister Emily came running to me crying. She said she saw a shadowy figure standing in front of the mirror, staring at her. When my parents checked, there was nothing there. They told her it was just her imagination, but I believed her. The next day, I decided to investigate. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time, staring at my reflection. At first, nothing happened, but then the room grew colder, and I saw a dark shape move behind me in the glass. I spun around, but the hallway was empty. That night, I had another nightmare. This time, the shadow in the mirror reached out and grabbed me, pulling me into the darkness. I woke up screaming. I started researching the history of the house and the mirror. I found an old diary in the attic, written by my great-grandmother. In it, she described seeing a shadow in the mirror that would whisper her name at night. She wrote about how the mirror was brought from Europe by her husband, and that it was rumored to be cursed. According to the diary, every generation in our family had someone who was haunted by the shadow. Some went mad, others disappeared. My great-grandmother warned that the only way to stop the shadow was to keep the mirror covered and never look into it at night. I showed the diary to my parents, but they laughed it off as old superstitions. They refused to cover the mirror. After that, things got worse. My sister started sleepwalking, always ending up in front of the mirror. She would stand there for hours, staring into the glass with empty eyes. My parents tried to lock her door at night, but somehow she always found a way out. One night, I woke up to the sound of whispering. I followed the voice to the hallway and saw Emily standing in front of the mirror. But this time, her reflection was moving differently, smiling, waving, even though she was standing still. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the shadow in the mirror grew larger, almost filling the entire glass. I grabbed Emily and pulled her away, but as I did,
I felt a cold hand brush against my arm. I looked back and saw the shadow's face pressed against the inside of the mirror, its eyes burning with hatred. I knew we had to do something. I begged my parents to cover the mirror, but they still didn't believe me. That night, I decided to take matters into my own hands. At midnight, I snuck into the hallway with a blanket, planning to cover the mirror. As I approached, the air grew icy cold. The whispers grew louder, turning into screams. My reflection started to change. My eyes turned black. My mouth twisted into a grin. Suddenly, the shadow burst out of the mirror, grabbing me and pulling me towards the glass. I fought with all my strength, screaming for help. My parents rushed out, but they couldn't see the shadow. To them, it looked like I was fighting with myself. Just as I was about to be pulled into the mirror, Emily ran up and threw the black cloth over the glass. Instantly, the shadow vanished, and I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. After that night, my parents finally believed us. We kept the mirror covered, just like my great-grandmother had warned. The strange happenings stopped, and Emily stopped sleepwalking. A few months later, we moved out of the house. My parents sold it to a couple from out of state. Before we left, I made sure the mirror was covered and warned the new owners never to uncover it. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear whispers in my dreams, and I wonder what would have happened if Emily hadn't covered the mirror in time.
If you ever find an old mirror in your house, be careful. Some reflections are more than just glass. Some are windows to something much darker. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more true horror stories. And if you have a scary experience of your own, share it in the comments below. Your story might be next.